Good evening, everybody. Welcome to February 8th, Pullman Police Advisory Committee. I am Stephanie Rink, the chair of the committee. Welcome, everyone, and glad that you are here. Tonight, we have a brief meeting. We'll just start with our minutes. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about the minutes from last meeting?
Yeah, this is Nathan. I was present at the last meeting, but it indicates that I wasn't.
I will fix that for you.
Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? All right, so we will get that fixed. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move that we approve.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, wonderful. So the next thing, Darby, correct, we are talking about the summit report. Is that right on the agenda?
Great.
Perfect, great, thank you. So if everyone read the report, as you know, on November 9th, we had the virtual summit, which went really well. We got a lot of great feedback from our community, which was in the report, and talked about what issues, this is from the committee, or from the Pullman community, what issues that they had, what type of solutions they possibly would like to see, or that they came up with on any of that. And then from there, we discussed looking at the key issues, what type of solutions that we could possibly do for Pullman Police Department. And so some of those were the Citizens Police Academy, bringing positive attention to law enforcement with the Pullman 2040, looking at revising some community policing language in the reviews so everyone is on the same page, building relationships with community officers, getting to know your community officers. We started that last month. And increase awareness, looking at resource pages, talking about the bias training, calendar of events, different things on the website, looking at lack of representation from Greek life. So we're going to look at the pack structure of what we're missing, what we need around the table. Talked about incidents of unfair treatment by police. So one of the suggestions from Chief Jenkins was our committee will be looking at regular reports regarding investigations for officer misconduct and improved communication with Greek leaders. So in the report, you can read the possible solutions to some of the key issues that were brought up in the community issues that were brought up in the summit. Does anybody have any questions or comments on those? Okay. So
Can I make a comment? Sorry.
Yes, Craig, go ahead.
Hi, Craig Watt here. So I found the comments insightful. I'd be curious how they fell into kind of general themes. I don't know if folks have looked at kind of placing the individual comments into some kind of organized structure. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. So are you talking about from the summit itself, the different blocks between like the multicultural community, WC faculty and staff, looking at those and putting in those into themes?
Now, a little more broadly, kind of going across the groups, so to speak. So, because some of the things that each set of groups shared were similar. And so it may be that, all groups shared a very common item, so therefore it may make sense to prioritize that. And maybe some other items were shared infrequently, and so it might be worth putting that lower on the totem pole, so to speak.
I see. No, that's a great suggestion. So we can always keep looking at these and reevaluating them. So I do like that idea. Were there any other comments or questions about the possible solutions?
Just a question I had on the report is there was a section with possible solutions and then there was next steps, and I was wondering what the difference between those two sections is indicating, like, there were some things in the next steps that were included in possible solutions, but there were possible solutions that were left off with the next steps. So just wondering about those two sections, how they interrelate to each other, and yeah, how that does that mean that we're not addressing the other possible solutions, or that was my
No.
question.
Okay, perfect. That is a great question, Nathan, and we will get right over to that in just 1 second. But were there any other questions about the possible solutions first before we move on and address Nathan's question? Okay, so hearing none, so that's Nathan, that is perfect segue to what we were talking about next. Is so you do realize that there is the next steps, and taking a look at all the possible solutions. We can't possibly do everything right at once. So looking at the things that we can do, and when we met, Chief Jenkins and I, and then our committee, talking about what we can do right away and what are some of the big priorities, that is where the next steps came from. And then we're going to look at those items, get those items done, and then go back to the possible solutions and key issues, and continue working on everything, on looking at the different resources we have, or what Pullman Police Department has, and what we can do. So we can't do everything all at once, which would be great because we don't have the resources for it. So we took a look at everything that we can do right away and start looking at that. And so those are the next steps. And then we're still going to have continued progress throughout the year, looking at the rest of the issues of what we can do with resources and the resource allocations, and how we're going to do that. So that will be followed up monthly or whenever is adequate, of when we have new reporting out on what we're going to be doing. Does that answer your question, Nathan?
Sorry, I'm trying to unmute myself there. Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
So if you look at the next steps, there's no particular order about the priority of the recommendations, but we just listed them. So the next steps is Citizens Police Academy. This is something that Chief Jenkins and also Chief Gardner would like. They're launching separate Citizens Academies for Pullman PD and also WCPD. Pullman 2040. So we have representation that is needed to bring positive attention to law enforcement and provide critical feedback on law enforcement and public safety concerns. Chief Jenkins and I, we met with Francis Benjamin, who is on Pullman 2040, to address all the collaboration efforts. And the following representatives were assigned from that meeting. So on the Pullman 2040 steering committee that we asked to have representation on that committee, Chief Jenkins and I will sit as representations on that committee. And then they have a Pullman 2040 safety task force. Those representatives will be Commander Jake Oppennorth. I don't know if I ever say his name right. And then from PAC will be Krista Gross and Rocky Lucas. So thank you to both Krista and Rocky for stepping up on doing that. That would be great. And I will follow back up with Francis to find out some more information on the meetings that will be coming up. There's also the listening spaces to provide opportunities for community members to share concerns and feedback. That we're going to stick and stay with PAC. So community members are always invited to come to our meetings, whether it's virtual or in person, and hopefully soon we'll be able to be in person. But they are encouraged to come to our meetings and really talk about, what are their issues, concerns, kudos, everything. And so we really would like our PAC members to really reach out to their constituencies and let them know to come to our meetings and bring forward any concerns or questions or comments that they have about our police department. The improved communication with WSU Greek leaders. So Chief Jenkins and I met with the WSU Greek leaders. We are now meeting on a monthly basis to forge positive and collaborative relationships with the entire Greek leaders. So we met with the president and vice president. We are now going to be meeting each month with, there's a couple other the Greek leaders that I can't remember. Chief Jenkins, do you remember what their titles are? I can't remember which ones they are.
No.
Okay. There's other Greek leaders besides the president and vice president that we'll be meeting with monthly. And so our first
Policy
meeting,
director.
yes, that. Yep. So we are doing that to forge some really good collaboration between the Greek system. And then building relationships with our Pullman Police Department officers and our community members. You remember last meeting, we had our officer come and talk to us. Great meeting him and talking to him, and this is one way for not only us, but also our community members to really meet our officers and get to know, all the officers and hear about the human side of them. So those are things that we're working on now, and then we are going to meet again and move forward our continued progress on some of the other issues with the resources that we have available. Any questions on our next steps and what we're doing?
I guess a question I have for, the other outstanding possible solutions, who is involved in making that determination on when they get to move to the next steps?
That would be with Chief Jenkins, because it takes the resources from his department, and we can't put everything on Darby to do it all. So we have to look at what is available between Chief Jenkins and Darby's time also to make sure that we still get it moving, but within the time frame that they're allowed. Chief Jenkins, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I think starting next meeting, I plan to give an update on the summit report and go over the items and identify the status of each item. So if there's a particular item that we're not working on that the committee feels is more urgent or wants to go in a different direction, then that we can discuss that. So these aren't going to be buried. We'll continue to provide updates, and we can continue to make this more of a living document and address things at each meeting.
Yeah, thanks, Harry. I mean, I know one area that I kind of heard in my subgroup that they were interested in particularly was a little bit more community oversight, I guess you would see, or maybe not oversight. Well, some of them would want community oversight, but also community involvement in policies and procedures and things like that. I know they were on the list, but they were on the next steps. And I know that, that requires things that may be beyond Gary's control and not really his job to push forward, but this committee could choose to be more involved in those areas in talking with the groups and peoples that make those decisions that are not Gary, talking about the city council, things like that. So just something to keep on the radar that this committee may want to discuss, doing some action items on themselves and not putting that on Darby or Gary to do it.
That's a great comment, Nathan, and that did come up and we did discuss that as well. And so that is something that we are talking about, looking at. There are some different policies and procedures that have to stay within the police department just for the safety of the officers. But that is something that we did discuss. And Chief Jenkins is working on a policy manual updating that currently. So there might be something for PAC to do, but at this moment, there's nothing at the time for us to do right now.
Hi, I have a question.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi. So I covered the summit last November, and I remember that the committee was talking about a community survey, which was currently under development at the time. Do you have any updates about that community survey? I think during the summit, you discussed that the survey would ask the community about their thoughts about public safety here in Pullman.
Hi, yes, Lauren, we did send out the survey. We sent it out a few days after the summit. We only received about, I think it was 11 responses. So not a high return, but from that, we did receive a lot of good information that went into the report also about the issues addressed.
Gotcha, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also a broader community survey that Dr. Macon we'll be working on as well. Dr. Macon, if you want to speak to that.
Certainly, and so when we've developed out some background on kind of two paths of the survey. So one much more broader, really looking at what does public safety look like in Pullman, and then one much more specific to police contacts. And right now we're just working through the best process for those. There would be some resources, simply some costs in being able to have those distributed in a way that would be comfortable having some generalizable results. But at the very least, we have those instruments in development. Some are closer to being finalized. That's currently where we're at.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Dr. Macon, hey, we running a quantitative or a qualitative here?
Actually, we're trying to do a mixed methods approach, which really
Okay.
is about getting some quantitative data, as well as some open-ended questions, and having a place for members to be able to self-select if they would like to participate in a much more in-depth interview or potentially focus group. That's how we were thinking about in the development. There really has been associated with a better practice as opposed to best practice. A better practice is really trying to be kind of all-encompassing in being able to get those specific feedback on public safety more broadly, and then just those that have interactions with the police.
Thank you very much. That's great.
So are there any other questions or comments about the report and next steps of what we're doing?
I just wanted to say thank you, Stephanie. I know you did a lot of work on leading that subcommittee, and I know lots of people have done a lot of work too. But for everybody to put work into that, good work. It looks good.
Thank you.
Something very briefly, just to be mindful of, is that we're going to need to request, if we decide to move forward and put this out as a pack, as a recommendation, and the Pullman Police Department does the same, eventually we have to make a request to someone to fund it. And so any way in which we are able to get more support from our constituents that they would like to see a survey, and it may be that we can't fund both, but we're able to do one or the other, it'd be helpful to start getting some information so that we can show what our constituents groups would prefer, so that we can make the request for funds to then be able to have the fielded survey. Because there is some additional steps that we're going to have to go through, because there is a cost. Some of the items that came out of the summit have a very low cost. This one would be that has an actual, has a real substantial cost associated with it.
Do you have any particular numbers, or not really at this point? Like how
Not yet. I mean, we'd have to figure out what the sample would be, and that's going to vary. To do a Pullman-based survey, we could generate that because we know the population. We can generate that. Police contacts are much more difficult, and then how we decide to do that is going to change the cost. So there's a lot of elements that we have to be mindful of to do this in a way that gets us generalizable results. And it behoove us to really think through which one is a pack we would like to essentially support in consultation with the Pullman Police Department, on which would be valuable for them, and then move it forward to council so that they can then have their conversations around this, and then we could hopefully secure a small appropriation to be able to do it. But I will say, whichever path we decide, we have to go into it with this notion that we will continue to do it. Because if we simply do it one time, that is not going to be helpful for anyone. That's a snapshot. We need to get something that is sustainable and something that generates data that is helpful for us, the community, and the Pullman Police Department.
Thank you, David. Any other questions or comments about our next steps and our progress moving forward? All right, well, we are excited about this. It's been a lot of great work for all the committee that's been working on it, so thank you very much. And we will keep updating everybody each month. And Chief Jenkins, I'll turn it over to you for the police report. Police Department report.
All right, thanks, Stephanie. So a hiring update. Last time, I believe I reported that we had hired Brock Westerman. He was a police officer at WSUPD for about 10 years. So he started January 25th, his first day at Pullman PD. So now he will go through our field training program at Pullman PD. Can you hear my audio? Okay, I was getting a note that my audio was not working. January 25th. There's another lateral that we are finishing up a background on, and hopefully have that done in the next few weeks. We held additional lateral officer interviews on June 11th and January 11th. None of the applicants of that interview passed the interview panel. We held entry-level interviews January 21st and 22nd, and had chiefs interviews just this past Thursday and Friday, and we have started backgrounds on 2 applicants from that. There were more applicants that appear to be good quality applicants that we will do backgrounds on, but we have the capacity to do about 2 backgrounds at a time at the moment. So we're going to do the top 2 and work our way from there. I was a panelist on a League of Women Voters virtual meeting last Thursday to talk about the Black Lives Matter protests from June 12th. I was looking they were going to post that online. Chris, I was looking online and I didn't see anything yet. Would it be on the Facebook page if they post it? Do you know?
I haven't seen it either. Barbara, have you seen it? There you go.
Okay, I have not. I would think it might be on their website page, but I haven't actually checked to see if it's posted yet. Sometimes it takes them a week or 10 days to get it up and running.
Okay. When we get the link to that, we can send it out to the committee, and if you want to take a look at it, you'll have the link then. And that's really all I have to report.
Thank you, Chief Jenkins. Any questions or comments for the chief?
I have a comment. I'd like to thank Chief Jenkins for coming to the League of Women Voters. I guess it was a summit, but I know that he has a job that he signed up to do, and it's tough, and he has to be, in places like this all times of day and night. But it was kind of a tough conversation, and I respect him, and I think he handled it very well, and I think he has a tough job of keeping people safe, but also just making sure that all feelings are intact when it's over. And Chief, I think you did an excellent job of listening, responding, but again, mostly listening. And I think that was really important for them and for me, because I didn't know that there were any problems. In fact, when it was all over, the organizers said it went better than we could have expected. So with that being said, thank you so much, Chief Jenkins, for having a tough job and doing it well, and keeping a calm face about you in light of some criticism. So Barbara, what did you think?
I totally agree, Krista. I think that that I felt really proud of our police chief and how that got handled, and the respect that he showed to everybody involved.
Yes.
Not to talk about you in third person, Gary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. I very much appreciate that.
Good.
Okay, any other comments, questions for Chief Jenkins?
Stephanie,
Yes,
I
Joe.
want a quick follow-up to Chief Jenkins' update on interviews.
Mhm.
I was part of the interview committee on the 11th for laterals, and I've been part of interviews off and on for several years now. And I just wanted to say that it is an incredibly thorough process, the interview, great range of questions, and there's a clear commitment from the city and from the department to not hire somebody just to fill a vacancy. They're not going to do that. There's a commitment to hire people who are the right fit for this community, and I compliment the department for continuing to do that.
I would say ditto on that, Joe. Very much.
Thank you all for sharing that, because we don't know that. So that's awesome for you to share that as a neutral party.
Yeah, and thanks to those of you that serve on the interview panels, because it is a time commitment, but it's incredibly valuable to get community and member input on the selection of police officers. And I know I've told Joe this, but those that are on an interview panel were, like on this particular case, all of the applicants failed. Sometimes you feel like you're really not contributing anything, but as Joe explained, you really are, because you're doing us a big favor by selecting out applicants that just would not be a good fit here. So thank you, everyone.
All right. Anybody would like to report out on their constituency unit? So I will just say, for a Pullman School District parent, I am very excited that my children possibly might, knock on wood, go back to school 2 days a week starting March 1st. So long as everything and everybody behaves and our numbers don't go up. I am so incredibly excited about that.
Hey, Gwen or Isabella, what do you all have to say to that?
And I'm excited for hybrid and chance to go back to school, but it's going to be so much different than what we're used to, and it's going to be interesting to see how everyone handles it and what's going to happen during school.
I'm in a special situation over here, which I can't go back because I have an immunocompromised mother. So, yeah.
How do you feel about that? I mean, are you okay with staying at home?
Oh yeah, I actually really like online school. It's actually been really helpful.
Good.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. I always love to hear our high schoolers' input and opinions on things.
Yes, the high school parent, I can't wait. It's going to be great for them to be out of the house for 2 days, and while I'm working from home. It'll be nice.
Darby, are your kids still at home?
My kids have been on hybrid the whole school year, so they go in person 2 days a week.
Okay.
It's been a balancing act and definitely an adjustment, but we're getting through. So.
For sure.
Anybody else would like to report? Joe, how is everything going with the school? We're still on track?
We are still on track. The COVID numbers in Whitman County and Eastern Washington continue to trend in the right direction. Just keep our fingers crossed we don't get a Super Bowl bump in COVID numbers. But I think everything is going well. And I really have to give a shout out to the Whitman County Health Department, which has been doing an amazing job of getting vaccine out there. They have orchestrated the ability to vaccinate a tremendous number of people in our community. So shout out to Whitman County Health Department.
Good.
Well, and I would also like to shout out to both Cameron and Justin for their work on putting that hybrid schedule together for middle school and high school. If you didn't see that board meeting or look at it, they really had to do a lot of work to figure all that out. That was that was a difficult task for them. So kudos to all of them putting that together. And we're excited about the kids going back, but it's great that they are behind the scenes working really hard to make sure that everybody stays safe. That's great.
I also have to acknowledge WSU's efforts to help us get back into school, because I think everybody recognizes that what happened in the fall with the WSU students coming back really was a hamstring. It really caused us to have problems in the community. So WSU is making a Herculean effort with their students to really kind of keep these COVID numbers trending in the right direction.
That is very true. Well, if nobody has anything else to report, and if there's nothing else on the agenda, any public comment at all? Yes, Eric?
I have one question. Do we have plans for our future meetings?
Like to be in person or?
No, I'm talking about subject matter. Presentations, any of that, you know. I know Gary said something about he's going to do more with this. What you were just talking about today,
the summit report. Yeah.
Yes. But I'm just curious if we have any particular things scheduled for our coming meetings.
Darby, do we have anything?
No, I think the only thing we talked about was having an officer maybe attend again at the next meeting. But other than that, I don't think there's been any discussion of a particular topic or anything like that.
Eric, do you want to propose a topic, or does anybody have a topic?
There's 3 items still left on our list that we previously talked about, but we don't have to hold to these, but they are recognizing drug and alcohol abuse, active shooter, civilian training and police response, and bomb recognition and response.
Anything stand out to anybody of interest? Or any other ideas? David?
I'm just thinking about what we've heard around maybe suicide prevention might be helpful, just given all that's been going on, and just thinking about school and all those. It might be helpful just to have the community hear about some resources and support. I think we had one about a year ago around this time, and so that might be helpful.
You know what? One of the recent council meetings, Mike Burney from Police River Counseling spoke about the impact of COVID-19 and the mental health in the community. Is that something that you'd be interested in?
That would be good.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll see if I can set that up for next meeting.
Great. If anybody else has any ideas, please send those to Darby. I'm putting Darby on the spot, but that would be great. If you guys have any, if you think about it anytime, just send your notes to Darby of what you would like, different presentations. All right, last call for anything else. If not, everybody stay warm as we're supposed to get into the single digits. And have a wonderful evening, and we will see you all in a month.
Thanks, everyone.